Help me.
I've got you. It's over now.
Are you hurt?
Not anymore.
Stay with me.
You cannot escape your fate!
No!
Hold that spill!
This is madness! It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is, but not as beautiful as you.
Flatter.
Always.
The night he found what he threw away. The city of Knockhaven slept beneath a curtain of rain, but the alley behind Draven Castle did not rest. It breathed rot and rejection. Broken crates. Torn plastic. The sour smell of waste clung to the narrow passage like a curse no one bothered to lift. King Valar Draven, ruler of the night and sovereign of the vampire bloodlines, stood at the mouth of the alley in absolute stillness. The rain soaked his black coat, slid through his dark hair, and dripped from his lashes, but he did not blink. Something was wrong. Not the storm. Not the city. Something smaller. Fragile. Out of place. His senses reached forward, ancient and precise, slicing through the chaos of smells, rust, decay, stagnant water, until they found it. Fear. Human fear. Fresh. Raw. Terrified. Valar stepped into the alley, boots splashing through shallow puddles. His presence bent the shadows around him, but what lay ahead was too human, too ugly, too real to belong to his immortal world. Near a dented metal dumpster, half hidden beneath ripped black trash bags, was a shape. A body. Curled tightly on its side, as if trying to disappear. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating the scene in cruel clarity. A thin girl. Mud-streaked face. Torn clothes. One arm wrapped protectively around her ribs. The other pressed weakly against the ground, fingers shaking uncontrollably. Valar stopped breathing. He knew her. The realization struck harder than any blade. Leora. She had once been a maid in his castle, quiet, obedient, invisible. A girl who kept her eyes lowered and worked until her hands bled without complaint. He remembered her standing in the servant hallways, clutching folded linens, apologizing for existing. She had thanked him once. For nothing more than allowing her to stay. He had forgotten her just as easily. Now she lay in garbage. A low sound rumbled in Valar's chest, something between a growl and a prayer. He moved forward, rain soaking his sleeves as he tore the trash bags away with bare hands. Plastic ripped. Filth scattered. Leora flinched violently. Her eyes flew open, wide and glassy with terror. She tried to scramble backward, but pain crushed the movement from her body. A broken cry escaped her throat. "Please, don't," she gasped. "I didn't do anything wrong. I swear. I won't tell anyone. I won't." She choked, breath hitching, her body trembling uncontrollably. Valar dropped to his knees. The king of vampires, feared by empires, knelt in the filth of an alley. "Leora," he said softly. The sound of her name from his lips shattered something inside her. Tears spilled instantly, mixing with rain and dirt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I tried to be quiet." The word stabbed deeper than any weapon. He reached out slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal. His fingers brushed her wrist, and he felt how cold she was. Too cold. Her pulse fluttered weakly beneath his touch. Rage surged through him, sharp and blinding. "Who," he asked, his voice barely restrained, "did this to you?" She shook her head, eyes unfocused. "I don't remember. They said no one would miss me." Something ancient and terrible awakened inside Valar. He shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her thin body, pulling her gently against his chest. She weighed almost nothing. A discarded thing. A mistake the world had tried to erase. Her breath came in shallow gasps. "You're safe," he said, voice low, steady. You're not alone. She tried to protest, weak hands pushing against his chest. I'll leave. I won't be trouble. Please don't send me back. He froze. Back. Back to the streets. Back to hunger. Back to being nothing. I abandoned you, he realized silently. The king rose, lifting her with unnatural care. Rain soaked them both, but he shielded her with his body as he turned away from the alley. Behind them, the garbage remained. Ahead, the gates of Draven Castle opened without a sound. Inside, servants froze as their immortal ruler entered drenched and furious, carrying a broken human girl in his arms. Valar did not slow. He carried her straight into his private chambers, laying her on his own bed. Silk sheets stained with rain and blood. Fire flared to life in the hearth with a flick of his will. A healer was summoned. Orders were given. The castle sealed. And as Valar stood watching her fragile chest rise and fall, one truth carved itself into his immortal heart. This was not just cruelty. This was a message. Someone had thrown her away to show him that even his world could rot. His jaw tightened. They will answer for this, he whispered. Outside, the storm howled. And somewhere in the dark, powerful enemies began to panic. The king who stood guard. Leora drifted in and out of darkness, her body floating somewhere between pain and warmth. For the first time in weeks, she was not cold. Something heavy and steady surrounded her, like stone walls holding back the storm. When her eyes finally opened, light greeted her gently. Firelight. It flickered across a high ceiling carved with ancient symbols she did not recognize. The bed beneath her was impossibly soft, the blankets thick and warm. For a heartbeat, she thought she was dreaming. Then she moved. Pain tore through her ribs, sharp and unforgiving. A cry escaped her lips before she could stop it. Instantly, a presence shifted beside her. Don't move. The voice was deep, controlled, but not unkind. Her breath caught as she turned her head. King Valar sat in a chair near the bed, his posture rigid, his expression carved from restraint. His dark hair was still damp, his coat gone, replaced by simple black clothing. He looked nothing like the distant ruler she remembered from the castle halls. He looked tired. Fear flooded her all at once. She tried to push herself backward, but her body betrayed her, shaking violently. I'll go, she whispered hoarsely. I don't want trouble. I didn't steal anything. I swear. Valar stood at once, lifting his hands in a clear gesture of peace. You're not a prisoner, he said. And no one will touch you without my permission. His words were calm, but something heavy lived beneath them. She searched his face, waiting for anger. For disgust. For judgment. None came. Tears burned her eyes before she could stop them. Then why am I here? Because I failed you. The words rose to his tongue, but he swallowed them. You were hurt, he said instead. You needed care. A soft figure approached the bed then, an elderly woman with silver hair and eyes sharp with wisdom. She gently pressed cool fingers to Leora's neck. Easy, child, the healer murmured. You've broken ribs, deep bruising, and exhaustion beyond measure. You're alive because someone refused to let you disappear. Leora's gaze flicked back to Valar. Disbelief flickered across her face. You found me? I did. Her lips trembled. Why? The question struck harder than any accusation. Valar turned away briefly, staring into the fire as if searching for answers there. He had ruled kingdoms. Broken armies. But this simple question, why, unraveled him. You showed kindness in a place that had none, he said slowly. And I ignored it. Silence filled the room. The healer finished her work and quietly withdrew, leaving them alone. Minutes passed. Then more. Veiler remained standing near the bed, unmoving. "You don't have to stay," Leora said softly. "Kings shouldn't watch broken girls sleep." He looked at her then, really looked, and something shifted. "I will stay," he said. "Because no one else did." That night, assassins tested the castle's outer wards. Veiler sensed them instantly. Shadows writhed. Steel whispered. But he did not leave her. Instead, he extended his power, silent, absolute, and the attackers fell before they crossed the gate. Leora slept through it all. Morning light crept into the chamber hours later. Leora woke again, weaker but clearer. She noticed the chair pulled close to her bed. Veiler had not moved. "You stayed," she murmured. "Yes." No explanation. No excuse. Just presence. Over the next days, she healed slowly. Veiler ensured no servant spoke harshly to her. Meals were brought carefully. No orders barked. No eyes looked down on her. And Leora began to notice things. How Veiler always positioned himself between her and the door. How he flinched when she winced. How his voice softened when he spoke to her, only her. One evening, as rain returned to the windows, she whispered, "Why did they hate me?" He didn't answer right away. "Because the world is cruel to the unprotected," he said at last. "And I allowed that cruelty to grow." She stared at him, startled. "I don't want revenge," she said quietly. "I just want to matter." Something ancient cracked open inside the vampire king. "You do," he replied. "And I swear, no one will ever throw you away again." Outside the castle walls, whispers spread. The king had brought a human into his chambers. The king had sealed the gates. The king was watching. And those who had hurt Leora began to understand. Justice was coming. The girl who spoke to the dark.
Are you hurt?
The third night after Leora
Stay
woke,
with me.
the castle did not sleep. Veiler felt it first. A pressure in the air, subtle, wrong. Magic woven carelessly, like a blade swung by an untrained hand. Someone was testing his walls. Not an army. Not yet. A probe. Veiler stood beside the tall window of his private chambers, eyes fixed on the gardens below. Fog crept between the statues, thick and unnatural. The wards shimmered faintly, strained but holding. Behind him, Leora slept. Her breathing was steadier now, her color slowly returning. She no longer looked like something the world had broken beyond repair. And that alone had made enemies bold. A sound broke the silence. Glass. Not shattering, sliding. Veiler turned just as a shadow peeled itself from the far wall. An assassin. The figure moved fast, blade glinting with a sickly green sheen. Poison. Ancient. Made to kill immortals. The assassin lunged, not at Veiler. At Leora. Veiler crossed the room in a blink, intercepting the blade with his arm. Pain exploded through him, sharp and vicious. The poison burned instantly, black veins spidering beneath his skin. The assassin never had time to scream. Shadows crushed inward. Bone snapped. The body hit the floor, lifeless. Veiler staggered. Leora woke to the sound of his fall. "Veiler," she cried, pushing herself upright despite the pain. He hit one knee, breath ragged. The poison spread faster than it should have, magic enhanced, designed to bypass royal blood. "Don't come closer," he ordered through clenched teeth. But she was already moving. She slid from the bed, ignoring her fractured ribs, crawling toward him. Her hands hovered uselessly at first, shaking with fear. "I don't know how to help," she whispered. "I don't know what to do." The black veins reached his throat. Vaylor's vision blurred. For the first time in centuries, he understood something terrifying. He could die. "Leave," he said, voice weakening. "Get help." She shook her head violently. "No." Her hands pressed to his arm, and something ancient stirred. Words spilled from her lips before she could stop them. Low. Musical. Not English. The air changed. The poison hesitated. Vaylor froze. He knew that language. Every vampire did. The first tongue, older than bloodlines, older than crowns. A language forbidden to humans, believed lost. Leora's voice trembled as she spoke, but the words carried power. Warmth surged beneath her hands, chasing the darkness back. The black veins retreated. Vaylor gasped, lungs filling as life snapped back into place. The spell ended abruptly. Silence crashed down. Leora stared at her hands in horror. I didn't know what I was saying. It just came out. Vaylor looked at her as though the world had shifted on its axis. "No human should know that language," he said slowly. Her eyes filled with tears. "Am I in trouble?" He laughed once, short, disbelieving. Then he pulled her into his arms, holding her carefully, protectively. "You just saved my life," he said. "You are the furthest thing from trouble." She clutched his shirt, shaking. "They were trying to kill you because of me." "They were trying to kill me because they underestimated you," he corrected. Guards flooded the chamber moments later, weapons drawn, eyes wide at the corpse on the floor. Vaylor stood, power restored, fury sharpened into something precise. "Seal the castle," he commanded. "No one leaves. No one speaks." His gaze dropped to Leora. "And find out who ordered this." As the body was removed, Leora sat silently on the bed, staring at her hands. "What am I?" she whispered. Vaylor knelt before her, meeting her eyes at the same level. "You are someone they tried to erase," he said. "And failed." Outside the castle, fear spread. The attempt had failed. The king still lived. And now he was awake. When the king passed judgment,
your fate.
by dawn, the castle
This
felt
is
like a
madness.
cage. Every gate was sealed. Every corridor guarded. Servants stood in silent lines, fear thick in the air. Whispers tried to form, but Vaylor's presence crushed them before sound could escape. Leora watched it all from the balcony outside his chambers, wrapped in a soft cloak that was far too fine for someone who had once slept in alleys. The gardens below looked peaceful, almost innocent, but she felt the violence coiled beneath the surface. She had never seen justice before. Only survival. Behind her, Vaylor prepared. He did not wear his crown. He did not need it. The great hall filled quickly. Nobles arrived stiff-backed, faces carefully arranged into masks of confidence. Advisors followed. Guards stood immovable as statues. They all felt it. The king was no longer distant. He was angry. Vaylor descended the throne steps slowly, each footstep echoing through the chamber like a warning. "A human girl under my protection was beaten, discarded, and erased," he said calmly. "This happened within my territory." No one spoke. His gaze moved like a blade, cutting through the room, until it stopped. Lord Marcelin, a minor noble with powerful connections, shifted nervously. Beside him stood Lady Sereth, her perfume heavy, her expression sharp with disdain she did not bother hiding. Vaylor gestured once. "Bring them forward." Guards seized the pair. Sereth scoffed. "This is absurd. Over a servant?" The word echoed. Leora flinched. Vaylor's eyes darkened. "She is not a servant," he said quietly. "She is a life you thought disposable." Marcelin broke first. His knees buckled. "My lord, I only followed orders. They said she was nothing. They said no one would notice. Vaylor turned to Leora. Did you know them? She swallowed. They accused me of stealing. Of watching where I didn't belong. They said I should remember my place. Sereth laughed harshly. And did you? The hall went still. Vaylor moved. In an instant, Sereth was on her knees, invisible force crushing her shoulders. Her laugh died into a choked gasp. You will never speak to her again, Vaylor said. Or to anyone. He raised his hand. Strip them of title. Of wealth. Of protection. The sentence fell like an execution. Marcelin wept. Sereth screamed. They were dragged away, powerless, ruined, exactly as Leora had once been. Silence followed. Vaylor turned back to the court. Let this be remembered, he said. The measure of a kingdom is not how it treats the powerful, but how it treats the vulnerable. Eyes dropped. He dismissed them all. Later, as dusk painted the sky in blood and gold, Leora sat alone in the garden. The air was calm, but her chest felt tight. Vaylor found her there. It's over, he said. She shook her head. No. It's just, different. She looked up at him. I didn't want them destroyed. They destroyed themselves, he replied. I only ended the lie that protected them. She studied him carefully. You didn't have to choose me. He knelt before her. I did, he said. And I would again. Emotion rose dangerously in her throat. Why? His voice dropped. Because when I found you in that alley, I saw what my world had become without mercy. She reached out, fingers brushing his hand. For a moment, neither moved. The bond between them, unspoken, fragile, real, settled into place. That night, rumors spread across Knockhaven. The king had punished his own court. The king had defended a human. The king had changed. And Leora, once discarded, now stood at the center of a kingdom holding its breath. The queen no one saw coming. The city changed quietly. Not with celebration. Not with fear. But with attention. People began to look twice at the ones they used to ignore. Street vendors noticed the homeless girl who spoke kindly. Guards hesitated before mocking a servant. Whispers traveled faster than blood rumors ever had. The king had chosen differently. And choice, Leora learned, was power. She stood before the tall mirror in the East Tower chamber, barely recognizing the woman staring back. Her posture was straighter now. The bruises had faded. Her eyes, once dulled by hunger, held quiet strength. Yet she still felt like the girl from the alley. Vaylor watched from the doorway. You don't have to do this, he said softly. She turned. Yes. I do. The council chamber filled as night fell. Elders of ancient blood gathered, their expressions cautious, calculating. They had come to confront what they feared most. Change. The human is an anomaly, one elder said coldly. She speaks the first tongue. That alone is dangerous. Leora stepped forward before Vaylor could respond. I didn't ask for power, she said clearly. But I won't be ashamed of surviving. Murmurs rippled. Vaylor placed a hand at her back, not claiming, not commanding. Supporting. She healed me, he said. Not with blood. Not with magic. With courage. Silence fell. The eldest elder studied Leora for a long moment. The first tongue answers only to those bound by destiny. A breath caught in the room. Which means, he continued slowly, she was never meant to be thrown away. Realization struck like thunder. The trials were brief. Symbolic. Empty of cruelty. Leora passed them without bending herself into something false. When the final words were spoken, Valor did not stand above her. He knelt. Gasps echoed. "I offer you nothing you do not choose," he said. "No crown. No chains. Only a place beside me, if you wish it." Leora's eyes filled with tears. "I don't want to be protected," she said. "I want to be respected." He looked up at her, something like awe in his expression. "Then stand," he said. She did. The coronation was quiet. No blood. No conquest. Just a human woman crowned by choice. That night, as moonlight bathed the castle in silver, Leora stood beside Valor on the balcony. "I used to think I was nothing," she whispered. He took her hand, not possessively, but carefully. "You were never nothing," he said. The world was simply blind. Below them, Knockhaven breathed, changed. And for the first time in centuries, the Vampire King ruled not through fear, but through humanity. Final moral. Respect is not earned through power. It is revealed through kindness. And those the world throws away may be the ones who save it.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is, but not as beautiful as you.
Flatter.
Always.